there, I'm Sarah Kolis. Welcome to the Dressing Up podcast, where we talk about all things bridal dresses and general dressing up topics. I love to encourage women to dress up while expressing their personal style with confidence on how to do so. Visit sarahkolis.com to book a bridal alterations fitting, or even inquire about designing the custom couture bridal gown of your dreams. I am so excited to talk to you about this next topic. Let's get started. All right, ladies, congratulations. Did you just get engaged? How exciting. Oh my goodness. Okay, so you just got a new ring. So let's all hold that up there, show the crowd, give it a little shake, shake, shake. Oh, so pretty. Careful when you turn your hand the other way and face the ring towards you. You don't want to get blinded by the beauty, right? So just be careful of that. Okay, enjoy the moment. This is such an exciting time of life. Like, seriously, like one of the happiest times in your entire life, and you really want to make sure you soak that up before you dive right into wedding planning. So take lots of photos, be sure to tell all your close family and friends pretty soon after. I asked my husband if he had any advice right after you get engaged, and he said that just remember that this is probably the most fun and the most happy time of the whole engagement process is those first few weeks where it's super new and exciting and everything's all happy. So the early part of the engagement is the most fun. It gets to be really stressful as the wedding planning begins and goes on. Kick your feet up and enjoy it. The first few weeks are the most fun. It is where absolutely nothing but happiness and excitement occurs before all the hustle and bustle of the wedding planning process, the stress, the drama, the decision fatigue kicks in. So I can't stress that enough. If you just got engaged, just enjoy it for a moment. But if there is one particular vendor that you absolutely have to have at your wedding, like a particular photographer or a particular venue, don't be afraid to just shoot them a quick email, okay? You don't have to get into all the wedding planning right away, but if there is one particular person that you're dying to have at your wedding, make sure you jump in with them sooner than later. Okay. At the end of this episode, I'm going to give a few tips to people that aren't engaged, but maybe you're the parents of the couple, close friends, siblings. I have some advice for you, so you can fast forward if you'd like and jump to the end of this episode to hear those. All right, so you just said yes. Oh my gosh. I really hope that the engagement was planned in such a way that the two of you can have a moment together, just the two of you. So it's not like you say yes and immediately all your family is bombarding you right there. Just take a few minutes, if not like have dinner right after, to just enjoy a moment, just the two of you. Because I guarantee you there are going to be people that walk up to you right after you said yes and start asking about wedding stuff. That's not the time. Okay, so enjoy the moment, just the two of you. Take lots of photos and enjoy. All right, so next thing, go and get your manicure. Okay, if you have not already, have your nice, fresh, manicured nails so that you can show that ring off to all your friends and family. Fabulous. We all know that one. Okay, so one of the other first things, soon after you got engaged, make sure you have an insurance policy on your ring, whether it's through your homeowner's insurance or you need a separate policy. Just make sure that's covered. That's all clear. We're good. Side note on that, jumping ahead here, but consider not bringing your ring on your honeymoon and leaving it in your safe at home, your parents' safe at their home, so you can guarantee nothing bad is going to happen to that ring on the honeymoon. I can't tell you how many times I've heard of women losing their ring on the beach of their honeymoon. There's something about the water, your hand, it just slips right off without you knowing. My husband did buy like one of those silicone bands for the honeymoon. I just left mine at home. I had a little cheap ring I slid on. He actually lost his silicone ring at the beach. Okay, again, let's reiterate that. Let's be careful with our rings. One thing I did after I got engaged, I took a shoebox and created like a little engagement memory box. So it had in there the ring box, the cork for the champagne that we drank, some photos, of course, the napkins that we used that said like best day ever. It was really cute. So just like a small little memory box is sweet to keep. Obviously, to all your closest friends and family. And then My personal advice when they ask about the wedding immediately, just say you don't know yet, even if you do, just so you're able to change your mind a little bit and discuss more with your fiance before you start sharing information about what's going on. And people love to give their opinions on that. So just make sure that you just are careful with what you're saying right at the beginning. Don't start inviting people to your wedding. Okay, you told your best friend's cousin, they're all excited for you. You told your distant friend you haven't talked to in 2 years. Like, just don't start inviting people immediately. Be careful of that. If you tell people you're going to have a big wedding right from the start, you can't go back on that. So say you're having a small wedding and jump to a big wedding later, or just don't bring it up. Try to avoid that as much as possible. I know that can be difficult though. Don't promise anything to anybody. If someone says, "Oh my God, you're engaged. Congratulations. Can I do all the table settings for your wedding? Or can I be involved in helping you get your veil? Can I offer you my veil from my wedding for you to wear?" Oh my gosh, so excited. Don't promise anything. Just hold off. Okay. Getting engaged and telling people you're engaged is about getting engaged. It's not about the wedding. Okay. Stay focused. We're engaged. We're enjoying being engaged, being newly engaged. We're not focused on the wedding yet. Okay. Again, before you start discussing anything wedding with anybody, have all those discussions with your fiance. You got engaged, enjoy at least a couple days without any wedding talk at all. But at some point, you want to sit down and have some serious conversations about what your dream wedding looks like and what their dream wedding looks like, and kind of see where you can both align and come up with this plan to create your dream wedding happen together. My advice when wedding planning, especially in the very, very early stages, is to choose your top 3 important things for your wedding. Identify those priorities. And that's what I feel like can start your wedding budget. So you can make sure you hit these 3 things. And then everything else beyond that is less important, and you can save money by cutting down or either just crossing those things off altogether. So for example, my most important things for my wedding was that my wedding is an experience for my guests. My dress, obviously, that was like top. The third thing was the photographer. So those top 3 things is what I started the wedding planning with and then worked backwards from there. Okay, so make sure that your fiance also provides their input because they're half of this wedding too, so don't want to forget about them. But that's kind of how I suggest starting your wedding planning and your wedding budget, is just make sure you've got those 3 things hit. All right. One more thing you want to discuss with your fiance one-on-one decently soon after you get engaged, before you start wedding planning, is discussing that budget. So again, the top 3 things, that's awesome to start there and work your way back. And you need to start saving your money. Weddings are not cheap. Just know the more people you have at your wedding, the more expensive it will be. If you really, really don't want to put much money into your wedding, totally fine. It's completely up to you. My biggest advice would be to cut that guest list way back. Okay. And make sure, this was one of my husband's tips, of course, not something I would have thought about. Think beyond the wedding too. It has to align with your goals post-wedding. You don't want to blow all your savings on this wedding day. If you're going to be buying a house, if you're planning on doing a really awesome honeymoon, don't forget about those things. You just want to make sure you budget properly and just start saving your money. If this is something you really want to do up and make nice, you just want to make sure that you're not spending beyond your means here. So just keep that in mind. Not the super fun part of wedding planning, but it is something you always have to think about and consider in the back of your mind. When you're planning your wedding, obviously a date is very important, which I don't think you can really hone in on a date until you have your venue set, which isn't something you should be doing immediately after you get engaged. But maybe within that first week of getting engaged, just kind of like choose a season in a year just to kind of tell people, because they're going to ask, if you want like a 2-year engagement or if you want a 5-month engagement, then that's kind of something you typically know before you even get engaged. And my personal opinion on that is consider a short engagement. I personally love short engagements. I had a 1.5 years, which it seems that us in Michigan tends to be pretty standard. But at the time I got engaged, I thought that was really long. And it was because I needed to make sure I made my dress and the bridesmaid, all these things. So I needed time to be able to do all that sewing. But don't feel pressured by the industry to have a year and a half, 2-year engagement. It is very possible to get married in 5 months. Are you going to get the top big venues? Maybe not, but just consider that option. Don't think that that's not an option for you. As I already said, you want to make sure you contact your favorite vendors as soon as possible. If there are like second tier vendors, you might want to reach out to them pretty soon as well. So for me, reaching out to the photographers was the first thing I did to make sure I could get aligned there. And then like my next tier was florists. Like I really wanted to make sure I had the Flower Alley in Novi. So I made sure to contact them quite soon too. Now, there were certain things that I didn't care as much for example, like booking a party bus. I didn't end up doing that. It's not something I really cared about. Do I think it's great for other people? Absolutely. It just wasn't something that was important to me. And it was an easy way to cut on the budget. And I did consider it. I contacted them further out. You don't have to contact everybody right at the beginning, is what I'm saying. Drafting the guest list is something you'll want to do right at the start of wedding planning. Again, I know I'm talking a lot of wedding. Right after you get engaged, I want to stress to just soak up that moment and wait. But if we're talking about the very beginning stages of wedding planning, this would be another one, is to draft out that guest list. I talk to engaged couples often and they're like, oh, well, I don't know what venue yet. I don't know what I'm doing yet. Well, you can't really decide on all those things until you have a rough estimate on what your guest list is going to be. Do you want a really small wedding? It's possible. No matter how many friends you have, it is possible to cut that guest list down. You can do it, but I would just roughly get a guest list going. And if you're feeling motivated, get your big guest list and then see what your smaller guest list might be. If you could cross some people off, what would that number be? So that when you start contacting venues, you have some sort of idea of how big of a venue you need to be able to accommodate your guest count. If you find that there's a venue that's much smaller, but you absolutely fell in love with it, well, you know, you could cut your guest list down to this number if you needed to. So you have all of that background information while you're searching for all these things. That's very helpful. Starting the Pinterest board, or maybe you already have one started. Make it a secret board, obviously. Browse for dresses, start getting ideas. Pinterest is such an awesome tool while wedding planning. I go on Pinterest every single day, multiple times a day. I don't know, maybe I'm old school, but I love Pinterest, and Pinterest is amazing for planning a wedding. It's also great when I talk to potential custom couture bridal gown clients. They have a Pinterest board that they can send me, and I can totally get their vibe without ever meeting them. I know kind of what they're going for with their Pinterest board. Super helpful. And then also something to fall back on later. Like maybe you're not deciding what your flowers are going to be yet, but you have this thing you pinned right at the beginning of your engagement that you can scroll and fall back on and find it really quickly, as opposed to just starting completely from scratch when you're asked that question. All right, now engagement photos. Okay, you don't have to do engagement photos. I love them, of course. I'm a photo person. If you're going to do save the dates, these are awesome to use for those save the dates. And it's also just an excuse to get good photos of you two taken not in your wedding dress and suit, just some nice photos of you two at the start of your lifelong journey together. Just some really sweet photos you can put around your house and use for various things. If you want to get engagement photos taken like right away, you can obviously just contact photographers about that. But it's also really great if you have your wedding photographer chosen and you take engagement photos with them. So if you have to wait a little bit to the point where you're starting to plan your wedding and you have your photographer set to take those engagement photos, that's fine too. I took my engagement photos, I think it might have been 6 or 8 months after we got engaged. So not super important. Also, you want to consider like the time of year. I got engaged in September and I really wanted like a spring summery type of engagement photo session. So that's why we waited until June to do that. Okay, here's maybe a controversial one. Asking the bridesmaids. So in my personal opinion, I don't think you need to ask the bridesmaids right away. It's not a requirement. If you know exactly who your bridesmaids are going to be even before you got engaged, then ask them. Fine. If there's any hesitation, which there usually is, it's very rare that you know before you got engaged who your bridesmaids are going to be. Take the time. You don't have to decide right away and make mistakes. And I recommend asking the bridesmaids about 6 to 8 months before the wedding. That will give them plenty of time to get the dress, which you'd probably want to do right after you ask them. Also, extremely polite to get them a final budget before you ask them to be a bridesmaid so they know exactly what they're getting into and there's no surprises later. So gather that dress cost for them, gather what the bachelorette party is going to cost for them, or at least a rough budget, okay? Just so they know what they're getting into when they say yes and there's no hurt feelings later. Some argue that it's rude to wait to ask your bridesmaids, but that's assuming you're 100% sure. And let's be honest, that's rarely the case. So if you have to take a moment, take a moment. And if you feel like there's just too much stress, like you have too many people on your list, just cut way back. Have just your sister, just his sister, maybe one friend. Call it good. You don't have to have this whole slew of bridesmaids if it's going to stress you out. All right. Book vendors. We got engaged. We'd enjoyed our moment. Now we're booking vendors. So something that I think maybe people don't understand until they're in the wedding planning process or they watch their best friend or sibling go through the wedding process. I think throughout the whole wedding planning process, you have a really busy beginning and a really busy end. And then there's this lull right in between. So you want to book your vendors so that they're available on your wedding date, but they don't need to know detailed information from you until closer to the wedding, a month or two before, when they're starting to ask you all the detailed questions. So just know that there's that lull, book your vendors, then you've got plenty of time to do little things here and there, and then contact your vendors again closer to the wedding date, or they will contact you. So after you book your vendors is a great time to start talking with friends and family if they're curious about more details about your wedding. If you're kind of on the fence about some things, you might want to keep those things either to yourself or be very conscious of the opinions that people give you and just make sure that it's not changing the style of the wedding that you want. So avoid those topics before you have those settled in. Sometimes it is not all fun and games 100% of the time. Of course, right after you get engaged, first few weeks, oh my gosh, so much fun, so exciting. You start wedding planning, things get stressful, people give their opinions, it goes on and on and on. And you feel like, oh my God, I thought this whole wedding planning process was supposed to be so much fun, but all of a sudden I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling confused or I'm feeling hurt or whatever it may be. That is so normal. It's something we don't really talk about as brides because it's supposed to be all fun and fairy tales and all those things. Just know there's going to be slower, duller moments, and that is okay. That's part of the process. Okay. So when the wedding day actually happens, oh my gosh, you're going to have so much fun, but just know it's not all fun and games 100% of the time. And that is okay. All right. So you got engaged. You are starting to book your favorite vendors. Oh my gosh, so exciting. Don't forget about me. You will need to do your wedding dress alterations much closer to the wedding date. So book those with Sarah closer to your wedding date if you're interested in a custom couture bridal gown made by me here in the United States with 100% silk fabrics. Oh my God, they're gorgeous. Reach out to me sooner than later. I do recommend you at least go dress shopping ahead of time, just in case you find the dream dress and or so you just have a background of what you like and don't like. Now I'm going to dive into the tips for the close friends, family of the couple right after they get engaged. So the couple just told you they were engaged. Maybe you took a photo of them because you wanted to. Do not post that photo. Do not post any information about the couple getting engaged until after they post on their social media. So if they're going to take a full week to post something, you're going to wait a full week to post something. You don't want to tell anybody about this information until it is public knowledge, just to save that excitement for the couple themselves, telling all their friends and family. It's a very exciting moment for them, so don't take that away from them. All right, you just had a couple tell you they were engaged. Don't ever assume you're going to be invited to the wedding. Okay, maybe you think you're a close friend, but you didn't quite make that 40-person cut. I work with brides all the time that elope in Vegas. They don't even take their parents with them. You can never assume you're going to be invited to the wedding. Please don't put that pressure on them right at the beginning of their engagement. Also, just don't ask anything about the wedding. Just don't. They got engaged. They want to tell you this news that they are engaged. And if you're bombarding them with wedding questions, it just doesn't come off right and it adds stress. Simply asking questions can add stress. So just enjoy the engagement moment with them. It is so exciting. and don't jump ahead too far. Don't assume you're going to be a bridesmaid either. Don't assume you're going to be a groomsman. We don't need to talk about all those things the day after they got engaged. We can just hold off on those things. I recommend never asking if you're going to. Okay. Everything you do as a supporting cast member of this future wedding, just always be conscious to put the couple's happiness first. That is a priority. All right. Their happiness matters the most. This is their wedding. They're going to remember this day as the happiest day of their entire lives. And always think of their perspective when saying and doing things that relates to their engagement or their wedding or just their lives in general. Send congratulations cards to them. They will love that. I have a whole stack of all these cards I got when I was engaged, and that was the sweetest thing ever and so exciting to get in the mail. It's just a really simple gesture that they will just absolutely love. Another thing, while you're through your engagement process, just make sure to always keep your ring clean. So you want to make sure you have a ring cleaner and clean it up before your bridal shower, your engagement party, or whatever else you're doing, bachelorette party. So keep that ring nice and clean. And I get this question a lot. Can you wear white to your engagement party? Should I wear white to this? Is that too much? If you are a bride, okay, definition of a bride, anyone that's engaged. Okay, I don't think you're just a bride on your wedding day. You're a bride that whole time. So you're engaged, you're a bride, and it is your party. You can and should wear white. There's not many other times in your life you can show up in an all white dress. Like if you're going to your friend's bridal shower, obviously you can't show up in a white dress, and you shouldn't also show up in a print that has a lot of white in it. I'm very careful about that. But yes, you should wear white to your engagement party if you're having one. You should wear white to your bridal shower and your bachelorette party, the rehearsal dinner, any other wedding related event. Absolutely wear white. I get girls all the time too that show up for their wedding dress alterations fitting, and they have like a really cute white sweatshirt that says bride across the front. When else can you wear that? Just get your use out of it now. And absolutely, you should wear white. Now, if you don't want to, that's a totally other thing. You don't have to wear white. You don't even have to wear white on your wedding day. So I just wanted to point that out there because I know people are always a little confused and hesitant on wearing white too much. No, you can wear white as much as you want to, and you should. All right, cool. So again, I'm just going to recap here. The most important things about getting engaged is just enjoying the moment. Do not forget that this is the most important thing. Wedding planning can happen later. Just enjoy the whole concept of getting engaged, having a new ring on your finger, and telling all your fabulous friends and family. And if you are a supporting role in this future wedding, just make sure to always keep the couple's happiness first. That is super important. And just, this is a very exciting time of life. Take it slow. Again, if you have certain vendors that you want to book right away, make sure you do those things, but otherwise just take a moment to take it slow. Wedding planning will happen when it happens. And I am so excited for you and this new journey that you're going to be entering into planning the most exciting, most beautiful, most happy day of your entire life. So enjoy. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this episode has allowed you to approach the world with greater confidence in your own personal style. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out through email or inquiry form on the website. I hope you are all ready to go and get dressed up. I look forward to sharing more dressing up tips with you in future episodes. See you there.